Well, we let us get started. Other people will be coming in.
Yeah.
We, all of us are aware that the world of refugees and immigrants has been totally turned upside down in the last 5 months. And to help us understand
Sure.
some of those realities
Yeah.
and what is going on and what we still might be able to do so we don't feel totally powerless.
Right.
We welcome Teresa Gibson, who is the community engagement specialist for Community Refugee and Immigration Services.
Right.
She has been here before, and it's wonderful to have you back
Glad to be
with
back.
us.
Yeah. And the talk I'm going to do today is kind of one we created right before the change in administrations to be very almost neutral and to just let folks know what the statuses are. Of course, since then, quite a bit has changed. And also, I'm sure you have specific questions. So please shout out, raise your hand. I've got lots of information that's not on this slide. I've got my friends at legal, I can pull up their most recent case points too. So just if you have questions, please feel free to ask. I don't want to speak anyway. I want to meet you guys where you're at. And I'm pretty sure a group like this knows a lot more than sometimes when I'm out in the real general public. But yes.
Is your organization connected to Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service?
There are 10 nationwide agencies. We are connected with Church World Service. Our partners in town are ETSS. They are connected with Global Refuge, which is with the Lutherans. However, ETSS has had to drop completely and had to right away after January 20th. Their refugee resettlement program. We did too, but we kind of had enough in the tank to keep it going for the 90 days that we needed to serve our clients. But there are 10 national agencies. 2 of them have since quit. That would be Catholic bishops and another one. 8 are still, and some of those 8 are even willing to work with the current administration's change in program where they've kind of left the UN program and are bringing over South Africans. Some of those organizations are willing to work with that, but there were 10, now there's 8. And then each of those 10 have affiliates like CRIS, and we're affiliated with Church World Service. Right. That's the crop walk people. Oh, okay. That's the crop walk crowd. As soon as I say crop walk, people are like, oh, yeah. Okay, well, we can start with the first slide on view show.
So not this one?
Well, can you go up to what'll probably be a little bit easier for people to see? If you go up to view.
Uh-huh.
And then
full slideshow.
Yeah, that'll give us full screen.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'll tell you a little bit about CRIS first and what we are still doing and how we plan to still helping newcomers in the Central Ohio area. Our mission is to help refugees and immigrants reach safety and stability, sustain self-sufficiency, and achieve successful integration into Central Ohio. We want people to come here and to be a part of our community and to thrive here. And everything we do, we look at the services we do for our clients and we want, is this helping people be safe? Is it helping them be self-sufficient? And is it helping them feel like they're a part of our community? Next slide. So in order to do that, we're 30 years old this year. We're going to be having a big party, a couple of big parties actually. We started out in a garage at a temple, gave us their garage, and we worked with a Buddhist temple for a while, and then we were affiliated with Church World Service and able to get our own place. That new logo is there, and we also have our own building off of Old Henderson Road. Next slide. Now, resettlement is what we are known the most for. It's not even the biggest part of our organization, but that's what we're known for. Last year, we resettled 758 refugees. Those were people coming directly from refugee camps or areas around refugee camps that have waited for years. However, you can probably hit the button and you'll see a red thing come on. On January 20th, the president signed the executive orders to pause the program. On February 26th, the contracts were just broken. This is we've been settling refugees under different acts in the United States for 80 years, but for the last 50, we've been doing it through an act that the Congress and President Carter did, and we've been following those protocols ever since. That is what just is not being funded. And it's in the courts. It's with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. It's gone back and forth and back and forth. The most recent thing on Friday, what happened was we were supposed to take another 758, 125,000 people nationwide in fiscal year 2025. What happened was when they just stopped it, there were about 12,000 people who had sold their belongings, got their plane ticket, and were ready for travel. 46 of them we had travel for into Columbus. We knew they wouldn't come. We didn't find housing for them or anything. We knew what would happen. So those people, the fight is really at least over those people. The president has the right to pause a program. The president has the right to change the numbers. It's the executive's decision on how that act works. But the question is whether they had the right to just stop it and process like they did. So that's still in arbitration, but nothing has moved even when these were blocked. So we have very little belief that at least for the next 4 years, we don't believe there'll be much up and running, and anything that is up and running with refugees probably will not follow the protocols from what we've been doing since for 50 years, since the Carter Act. So that's where we're at with that. And so those folks had plane tickets, you know what I mean? That it's not good. And the offices around them were defunded immediately too. So it wasn't like they could. A few people were able to come on their own because they had the visas, but their families had to scramble and get money together. And we have helped a few of those folks out. But now I'm sure it's a very tight visa time for a refugee. So there was a couple of weeks where some people were able to kind of sneak in, and we were scurrying around to raise money and get some families that we'd work with to come. Next slide. But we do have employment programs. One is ending. It's ending this month as the administration isn't funding it anymore. It's our match grant program, which is too bad. It's a very robust jobs program. But we still have a program that we get sent folks from the county who are immigrants and refugees here under certain statuses. And we help them find jobs and teach them English and do job training skills and get them interview suits and stuff like that. So we do that. That's pretty fun. Next slide. This is something I want everyone to know about. Our health and wellness program is up and running and strong. We have decent funding for it still. Not only do we help new arrivals and help them get set up with PCPs, we also have long-term case management for people who came under certain programs that have severe medical conditions, or even if they're pregnant, we follow them up for the first 2 years with case management. And the funnest new thing we have, which is a little wider in who they can help, that can also help some of the folks who came under parole. Which we'll get to in a minute. And that's a refugee mental health program called the STAR grant that many of us got nationwide, and it's really robust. We're able to offer services, counseling, and we can do things like Arabic speaking people with trauma and a 10-week nature session, like really neat programs like that. Or like we're thinking about starting some bird watching for some of our seniors who are struggling with trauma. So there's a lot of leeway in that program, and we're excited about it. So keep that in your minds and prayers. We're hopeful there. Next slide. This is just the hardest thing. We have a newcomer support services that offers 3 months of case management to help people who have come under certain situations, namely the TPS status from some countries and parole status, which I'll explain a little bit later. What that really means, it's Ukrainians and Haitians that we've been helping. Ukrainians and Haitians. And as of Friday, the Supreme Court ruled that we could go ahead with Trump canceling those programs for the 500,000 people that were here illegally. Now we have, through our legal department, I'm not talking just about the clients we help. I think all of the staff in that department are under this program. The staff. I think my colleagues. So they're going to lose their status as well. For most of our clients and as many extras as we can do, we have tried to apply for asylum as well to put another layer of removal. Although they're quickly removing asylum hearings. If you watched the news last night, that's happening. So, but this really is, if you come to our party, you'll see our Haitian community is really rocking. And these folks are scared, right? They're scared. Especially the Haitians and the Venezuelans are scared. We don't have a Venezuelan program at the moment, but we have some as clients. And that's just a big uncertainty. And we hope to have the funding to keep our newcomer support services open. Next slide. Our funnest one is senior services, because even though we're helping seniors who've come in the last 5 years under a refugee or asylum status, you have to be over 60. So I told them I'm joining them in 15 days. I keep dropping by the office saying I'm popping in for services. So we help them with services, connect them with senior options, connect them with food, help them with their appointments. But what we really do the most of is these folks just party. There's a Nepalese band. They go, and the last thing they did was zip lining. They have a community garden. So we might try to get shoes for all of them. And, we try to, one part of my job and my colleague Flannery's job is to get donations for these groups and stuff like that. We love them. They're great. We all want to join. And community connectors on the other age range sizes, it starts at 3 years old and goes up to 24. And that provides mentors for any immigrant child here who just needs a little help. And most of all, it provides community. They have a rocket club and they have a band and they have art nights, and they have a huge soccer tournament in Columbus called All Nation Soccer Tournament. So this year it's a little, we don't want to do a lot of public events with our clients, but at the same time, we don't want to not do public events with our clients. And so we are doing our public events this year, and we are making it very clear to our clients and friends they don't have to come, and we can also do things at their home. So that's how we're handling that. You could be a volunteer for either of these programs, and I think they're really fun. Next slide. We have a couple family services, and I don't know what's what because the funding has changed so drastically. I do know that we are still running our county program to help at-risk preschool students. So that's a county-wide program, but if the preschool student happens to be an immigrant with language difficulties, they come to us and we're funded to help them that way. So it's a lot of parenting help and some case management. Next slide. We have legal services. It's full and busy. You can go to our website. We have some open days for people from different countries. If you know someone who wants to talk to one of our lawyers for $25, the first day of the month at 8 a.m, start calling. And we have about 50 slots a month open up. And so any immigration question, you can do that. But our lawyers are very, very busy filing those asylum claims to protect our clients, even some of our Afghan clients who came 3 years ago, to protect them from deportation, put another layer of protection. So we're very busy doing that. Our lawyers are happy and bouncy and funny and fun still. They are just great people. I go down there to get cheered up. And they're on top of what's going on. And they always make me feel a little bit better because they don't see this dark as everybody else. They're like, that's not going to happen. That'll stop forever. So they seem to understand some processes a little bit better than we do. We are discouraged about the halt in green cards because our clients have waited. They're supposed to get a green card in a year. So all of those 750 people that came last year, many of them have submitted their green card application and paid a bunch of money and had their health check, and they're not seeing those come in. And that's worrisome in this new administration. So we hope that stops soon. Next slide. I'm giving you guys all kinds of extra information. Stop me. I'm just telling you stuff because you guys look like you know what's going on, which is great. That's
Just
our
one
staff.
question down here.
Yes.
Are people that hold green cards now becoming at risk?
We obviously we've seen that with some students and some people being kind of harassed at the airport. We are telling everyone, not at risk here, but we're telling everyone to keep those green card documents on them, especially if they might look like someone that there's one from these other groups. Our lawyers are saying if you have a green card, you can absolutely travel internationally and are still not afraid of that. But if you do not have a green card, do not travel internationally. So if you're here on a student visa or if you're here on your asylum visa, you've got your home country's passport, someone gets sick, you just can't go back right now and be safe to return. So that's what we're at. Next slide. No, that was our staff, which is, we lost 19 staff suddenly when the program was ended, but we have been able to shelter a lot of them in other programs. We expect more layoffs. I'm shocked I'm still here. But the community at large and some of our other funders have really been helpful through this process. So we're very grateful at CRIS for the community, which is the next slide. It's our lovely volunteers. Just a couple pictures. Next slide. All right, I'm gonna bust through these pretty quickly, just so, and we think this is very important, not just for you. I'm getting the sense that you guys know this stuff, but for the folks it is so confusing right now in the media. And I hear people that should know better using the wrong terms, and maybe people who control some parts of the country that don't use the terms right. And I think it's important that people know what some of these terms mean. So please share this with friends. Okay, next slide is just, a lot of people can be here under the Immigration and Nationality Act. It's really any person who's here legally. If you hit that button again, you'll see some of the examples. You could be here under the diversity visa. Did you know the United States government every year, is still going on, chooses 3 countries that they feel like we don't have enough of? And we put out 200,000 visas applications, 100,000 end up getting to come each year. That's happened. It hasn't really been ratcheted down so far this year. And it's to keep the United States diverse. That's a State Department. I think, I don't know. I don't know. Usually it's executive in communication with Congress, but I might not know on that. Yes.
Is that how the South Africans came?
No, South Africans came under the refugee program. They actually retooled the refugee program. Now, this is in the last few years, Algeria was very high on this, and then what happened is Algerians decided they really like Columbus, so they might have gone somewhere else. So we have a growing Algerian. CRIS doesn't. We don't really have any services for them. They're here. They're here legally. They're not allowed to be on any kind of financial support. There's a lot of rules to the. Some of my colleagues came in the diversity visa, but as I met more and more Algerians around town, I learned that this is why they're here. And so you might see the face of Columbus change a little bit because of that program. Yes.
The Algerians speak French?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're, like I said, they're not our clients, but the Riverview International Center is a nonprofit that's been working with them quite a bit, helping them get services and things like that. You could come here as a green card, a student visa. You could have a diplomatic visa, and of course, a refugee. Next slide. This is the chart of how to get a green card. Okay. That's not just for one person. This is all the ways that you can come. And this is from a legal site I use. So the refugee is just one little circle up there, right? So there's a lot of pathways. They're hard. But there are a lot of pathways to citizenship and a lot of visa types that people are holding, a work visa or a student visa, or that and then there's other ways to become at least a green card holder. So I just put that up to say that's not a joke. This is a complex thing. Next slide.
And your attorneys are still happy.
They're just happy. They just seem to be like, it's like they're taking it on, I don't know if you know Jesse Vogel. He was just elected at the city council, so or he's going to run. Right. So we'll talk about refugees, even though the program's closed. I think it's really important for us to know, as the administration or other people are kind of changing the terms. We use refugee loosely in our daily lives, but there's an actual definition has meaning, and that's any person who is outside their country. They had to have left their country of nationality, and they're just in a second country, and they're unable or unwilling to return because of, and it has to be one of these 5 reasons: race, religion, nationality, membership in a social group, or political opinion. A lot of this is about wars. A lot of this is about people groups. Your LGBTQ are in there. Your religious groups are in there. If you are afraid for your life and there's nowhere within your country you can flee, you cross a border and then you look for the UN. You get to the UN, whether it's a tent, or whether it's an office, or you might have to go to a different country, you get to the UN and you say, here's my story. And then the UN is thumbs up or thumbs down. If it's thumbs up, you're just starting your 2 to 40-year process. And it's the UN that then kind of chooses which pathway you will go, which country you will go to. So refugees spend, almost all of them spend a significant amount of time in a second country, in a refugee camp or near a UN office, or if they're or near offices where they can continue this process. So they're waiting. Next slide. This is until January 20th. This is the legal pipeline for the United States. It's very brief, but you end up attending about 9 meetings with the Refugee Service Center and later with the U.S. Immigration Service. This is where your deeper vetting has gone. You go to these meetings maybe once every 6 months, once a year. You're getting old phone records. Sometimes there's even blood drawn. There's, you are proving your story and being vetted. At any time, you could decide you're just going to stay in that second country and figure out how to make it, or you could be removed because your story doesn't line up. So, or maybe a child is added to your family, so your case has to add a person, then you tend to have to go back to the beginning. So that's why we see a lot of family separations. Say you meet, I have so many people like this now, you meet in a refugee camp and you get married and you have children. However, if you were to start a whole new case, that would set you back. So we have and men take longer to get through the processes than women because of some laws that are still there, that have been there since Obama and Biden. They started with Bush. So the wife and children will often come several years before the husband, but it's still faster than going back to the beginning, if that makes sense. So, or you're just separated. So I don't know how some cases just get separated. So remember that this process, we just got a girl, her mom and her sister, she's fine. She's 30. She's a delight. She's got 7 kids, like 1 a year. The oldest is 8. Speaks English and he's on the phone all the time from the refugee camp and we're talking, but he can get speeded up a little bit because he's here. So she's applied for him to come, but now of course there's really no chance for that. So that's I don't get into this discussion, but that is why there's so many family separations. They're just on different cases and they're processed differently. And once they come here, it's a very important part of what we do. Our director, Angie Plummer, she spends 1 day a week lawyering. She's also a lawyer just to get those family reunifications so that we can reunite our families that are already here. This last year, we just saw a bunch of folks come from Somalia that had been waiting since the previous Republican administration. You know what I mean? So they've been waiting since 2016. Well, maybe they could have come, but then there was COVID. They've just been waiting. It's been a lot of grandmas and grandpas and wives and children. It can't be cousins or nephews or anything. It has to be that. But that's been a lot of those reunions we've really enjoyed doing in the last year. And about 10 of them, I think, were going to come after January 20th. And so those families, once again, are put on hold. So mostly Somali here. And you go through the processes, and if you're given a thumbs up after you've gone through this anywhere from 6-month to 2-year process, then you wait, and you may wait for years for a spot to open up in our refugee program, or in the United States' refugee program. When a spot does open up, a group like us hears about it, and we say, yes, we'll take this family. We have capacity, and we get to work about 2 weeks before. Plane flights are ordered by PRM. Which was just taken up anyway. That's how it used to work. And do you know how those tickets are paid for? The U.S. government takes out a loan in the refugee's name. The first payments are due in 6 months. It's an interest-free loan. All refugees know they're going to pay it. That's never a surprise. And that's how they really develop credit. But you can imagine coming to the United States with a family of 6 from Jordan. That there is $4,800 you are in debt from the start. But so if you hear someone saying we pay for all these people to come here, we do not. We do not. They pay. So we do give them a grant. And we don't, but the US government gives them $1,650 per person one time. And so that money goes to CRIS. if we are settling them and we have to prove that it's all spent on the refugee, it is gone. For families under five and less, that money's gone before they hit the ground, right? Because that's rent, deposit, utilities, 3 cell phones, $200 worth of Kroger's cards. That money's gone when they, it's larger families, it's usually not larger. That's usually enough money actually, to make it and to not do it. But so CRIS supplements that with other grants and things like that. So that's how, and every resettlement agency like us too. You can't start a new life on $1,600 per person in Columbus, Ohio, right? You just can't do it. So anyway, next slide. All right, that was all refugees. Okay, so start in one country, go to a second country, apply with the UN, go through the processes, eventually make it to what's called your third country. That's where you're going to be forever. In our case, it's the US pipeline. Asylum seekers is also a UN program. It's also with the United Nations, but the UN kind of turns that over to the State Department of each country. So it would be ICE for us. And asylum seekers are seeking protection for those same reasons. It can't be for financial, it can't be for climate change, it has to be for race, religion, membership in a group, political opinion. It has to be for one of those things. But instead of going to a second country and finding the UN, they go straight to the country they want to go to and they don't sneak in, they go straight to immigration, they go straight to ICE, straight to CIS, and they say, I want to apply for asylum. Okay. That's just the beginning of their journey. As they apply for asylum, they're detained. Of course, it's closed down at the southern border, but you can come as an asylum seeker through any of our ports. And so people do it through an airport. You can also, if your situation changes, like say you were a Ukrainian student here 3 years ago under a student visa and the war happened, they were able to go claim asylum and change that visa. So those pathways are still open. When you hear the southern border is closed, it doesn't mean that all asylum is closed. And so if the US government says, yes, it sounds like you might have a valid claim, you are given a stamp on your travel document, your passport that says legal to be here with a date. They also give you a court date. You say used to about 1.5 years in advance. They give you about 1.5 years to walk into the country, maybe go with your family and get your legal situation so you can prove your claim. By no means that you're going to stay forever legally. It takes years, and the backlog takes years and years, and some judges have an 85% rejection rate. So, it's not a sure thing at all. So
are they on their own? They're not coming to a program.
They're not coming to a program. They're on their own.
So 1.5 years, they have to exist somehow.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you a little story. Next slide. I love this story because it's churches like you that made this possible. Not just like you guys. How do you guys know? Grove City, Bethel.
Yeah.
Bethel,
Yeah.
Grove City. Okay, this
Yeah.
first family. It's asylum seekers. It's a story I just told. They were detained. They fled Venezuela because of gang violence, and they were unable to survive. And because they're the wrong kind of people in Venezuela. And so they came up to the Darien Gap. They got arrested and jailed in Mexico for a while. They made it across the river. Diana lost her passport. That was terrible. They separated them for 7 days. And they said, okay, we'll claim asylum. While they were separated, fuzzy-haired Jose there, he said, I don't know anyone in America. Where do I go? And a guy in his prison cell said, people in Columbus are nice. That is why he came to Columbus. I swear, this is the story. The friendly people in Texas were very happy to give him a one-way bus ticket, and his family to Columbia, where when he got internet at the bus station, he said, Columbus refugees. He found Chris and he called us. And so on WhatsApp, didn't have any phone service yet. We had WhatsApp, and we're like, hey, we'll be right over the bus station. We have a little asylum program. We'll at least help you out today, get you started. A lot of times we just give people a couple $100, maybe find a church. But actually, when I met him, I realized I had a church that could really help him. We didn't have a program to help him for months. And so I met him on 161 because they walked from the bus station to 161. but they did walk 4,000 miles, so it's not that big of a deal. It's kind of saying, very nice. I just love these people. And I sent a call out to my friends at Bethel and Grove City who've been waiting for a family. I'm like, this is a tough one. They can't work for 18 months. Or they can't work for 180 days. Because that's when you come here as an asylum seeker, you have to apply for a work permit. And the government has made it 180 days to try to keep people from coming because that's hard. Some countries get that removed, like Ukraine, and they were able to get their work permits more quickly. But most asylum seekers have to wait 180 days. Most of them are joining family and have some kind of support to get their legal services. They are not eligible. Almost every country who's an asylum seeker, they're not eligible for Medicaid. They are not eligible for food stamps. They don't have a work permit. That's the case. Yes.
Some guy I know, he lied and said that they were collecting Medicaid, so I should tell him he's full of lies.
They are not allowed from most countries to have. There are some countries where they can, where some agreements have been worked out according to their parole status. So it really varies country by country. But it's rough. And that church took on a big job, right? And these guys don't have asylum yet. Pretty worried about them. They're still in the paperwork, but they do have their work permits. They do have jobs. Their daughter speaks English now. They've got, 2 cars and a TV and a life here in the United States. They're doing fine. The other family is also Venezuelan. They left for the exact same reasons, but instead of coming straight to the United States to look for asylum, they went to Ecuador, found the UN, and applied for refugee status. They were vetted for 2 years, and when a slot opened up for them, a nice little church, Davidson Canal, Winchester, said, "We'd love to help." These guys stepped off the plane. Their passports were not passports, their travel documents. They throw the passports out if they're refugees. Their travel documents were stamped with able to work. We apply for a social security number, which they get within 10 days. They get a green card in a year. They step off the plane really having about the same rights as you and I do. They can live wherever they want. They can move wherever they want. They can be on Medicaid. They could get food stamps, whatever. The church helped them. The church co-signed for a little apartment for them, found them jobs within 2 weeks. Within 2 months, this family was off of social services for almost everything. You know what I mean? They were fine. She worked days, he works nights. Kids went to school. It was great. But you see how that refugee status is quite a bit stronger once you're here, right? It's quite a bit stronger. They're able to work right away. And that's why for the majority of our clients, except maybe single moms, I would say, or people with disabilities or mental illness, the vast majority of our clients really are able to be self-sufficient in about 4 months. It's really possible because we made sure to rent them places that we knew that at 15, we were like $15 an hour. Can you make this rent? And that's kind of how we did it. So it's not, they do quite well, really, unless there's some extenuating circumstances. Next slide. Some people come under a special immigrant visa. That program is still open. It is for people who worked a long time with the U.S. military in Iraq and Afghanistan. The previous administration tried to boost the numbers right before the elections on this, hopefully to get more folks through. A lot of these SIV holders will probably pretty soon be denied entry because of travel bans that are forthcoming. But we've seen several, if they get through the services and can find their own way over here, we have seen them trickle through. They're almost all Afghan folks at this point. Next slide. We're helping them out a little bit. This is Aziz. He lived in Afghanistan, in kind of a remote area, was a translator for a general and a post there for 4.5 years. His daughter had a severe heart condition. The folks in Afghanistan that said they couldn't treat it. So he applied for this status. And he got it. His general signed him up for it. He actually moved to Albany, New York, where now he has a house and his daughter was fine. And it was just it was open to him because of the service he did for the U.S. military. Next slide. Okay, here's where things go crazy. For a long time, people have been paroled into the United States. That allows individuals without a visa through the Immigration and Nationality Act, and it shields them from deportation because of temporary unsafe conditions. That's what TPS is. So it's very hard. Each country is different. It's hard to explain, but if you were here before a certain time and the executive and the government decides we're going to give TPS to Ukrainians, we're going to give temporary protected status. It's just a stop of deportation. When you get here, you have to work on another status. Or, like I've experienced before, you may just go home in the 18 months because the war's calmed down or the climate situation's calmed down. Parole is when you come, it's not that you're a criminal, bad word, it's not. It's that when you actually come from another country because you've applied for it. Most often that can be like you're speaking at a drug trial or your kids need surgery and only a US doctor could do it. There's a lot of ways that we open up the United States under parole. The previous administration opened it up a lot to lower that border. So 500,000 people from Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Haiti were able to, if they could prove that they weren't going to use services and had family here and were in a desperate situation, they could, through an app, get parole status and then come to the United States. Quite a few did. That's been, but that's the program that the Supreme Court just said the current administration can end. So you can imagine what these people are under. They give their name, address, phone number, their relative's name, address, and phone number. They're here legally. They're total legal, and with the swipe of a pen, they're undocumented. So that is what, and I think as CRIS, this is where a lot of our just helping these folks. All right, I'll hustle through this. Time do we start? Oh, I got 10 minutes. Next slide. This changes every day. I advise you to read a depressing report that comes out every day called Church World Services State of Play. And they give a daily update 5 days a week on what's happening with all of the legal situations, including things outside of TPS. So I read that every morning. Okay, next slide. This is Maria. She's sweet. She's a friend of CRIS. We were working with her in our newcomer program. She was fine in Haiti, running a school with her husband, and armed rebels attacked it, took over the school for their base. He had a stroke from the fright of it all. She was able to use that app and come here, and he was able to get some grants to get some medical treatment. She came in March. She still doesn't have a work permit. So the last March 2024. So there's some legal issues. So we've been helping her out a little bit. But that's she's staying with family. But that's a very typical situation. Cannot go. I mean, going back to Haiti or Venezuela, just so you know, right now is really a bad option. But we can't say for people not to go back. Our lawyers would never say that. It's just those two countries in particular right now are extremely dangerous.
Haiti and
Venezuela. Haiti and Venezuela. They're not great. It's not great. Okay, next slide. You can hit the button again. Maybe one more. There's about 123 million displaced people in the world right now. 5 years ago, there were 60 million. It's grown pretty rapidly recently. Over half of those are still within the borders of their own country. About 40 million of them are refugees and are working through that refugee status. Asylum seekers is hard to count. The UN is guessing 8, but since the individual countries kind of track those, it's a little bit harder. And there's also just some catch-all categories that includes things like climate change and things like that the UN has made recently. But they're displaced because of war and conflict and disaster and human rights violations. So it could be as little as one of our clients had a gang of people from her ex-husband with a business, didn't want her business seen, they burned her with acid. And she could not go back to the country. It could be a little, she was being persecuted because of the group she was in. But mostly it's large groups of people from war-torn countries that can get asylum status. Next slide. Yeah, we jump into this. I went through that very quickly, and now we kind of switched to some good data about refugees and immigrants. But do you guys have any questions kind of about what's happening now? Or yes.
Well, we have a family that worships with us and has for several months. They're from Haiti. They're not married, so they came there differently. They have a daughter who's 5, and she's pregnant now. And They have applied for asylum.
Good.
But they don't speak a lot of English. And she worked, but has not been able to during her pregnancy. He's been searching for work. I believe that he can, and she has Medicaid for at least time of the pregnancy. But it feels disjointed otherwise. Now, I think in terms of like opening this up to the congregation more of how we can support them.
Our newcomer services, you could go online and look at that, and we may have case management available for Haitians.
Though they've been here a year ago, March, I think is.
Mhm.
So they.
I think we're okay still.
Okay, okay.
I don't know all the rules. Well, the Riverview International Center has no limitations. They're all private funding. And you can make an appointment to speak with them, especially about, but they're real good at job seeking right now. So I would say the Riverview International Center for Jobs. And and you're welcome to check out newcomer services. That would be just for some case management for these folks. ETSS is still doing case management with some people, which is through Lutheran Social Services, the Guadalupe Center, if they're on the west side. They're in this part of town.
Yes.
Jewish Family Services may well also have some services for them. So
And if they face their next scheduled immigration hearing is in September. We believe that they should go in with legal, so.
I'm gonna see if I can get a referral for you guys. It's this
Yeah,
we
I
talked about.
mentioned that sort of beforehand, and yeah, we're gonna.
Do they have family anywhere else in the world?
They have a brother in Columbus.
In Columbus, but not in Canada, per chance.
Oh, if we could all.
Not being rude. Can you take that off the recording?
Not so.
I've had some Haitian friends who had family in Canada. I kind of just made that call to but they had very legal ways of getting there. Yeah.
Question over here.
Yes.
Right there.
This is a sad question. Can you tell us exactly what happens when you're picked up by ICE?
I can't. I can barely. I will tell you where I get my information. It's actually from a person who's originally from Columbus who is leading in the field. His name is, I always want to say the famous actor's name, Austin Coker. And I could, it's not,
Yeah.
It's just like that
Right.
guy from the 70s show. And he does pretty much a weekly update. And I feel like his information, you see all kinds of stuff on TikTok. There's all kinds of crazy stuff out there. I don't know what's true or what's not. We only know from the testimony. So he is who I go to just kind of trust what's going on.
What's his name again?
Austin, Austin. Let me look up his blog. You can join, his Substack is free. He does a weekly mailing, and he's the one that my director, Angie Plummer. I want to make sure I'm spelling it right. Yeah, AustinKocher. And I think a lot of different things are happening with ICE around the country. I think some things are happening with students. Some things are just clearly deportations, like have gone on less last month than during the same time last year, right? It's not like we haven't done deportations every day for people who were here undocumented, but it's people getting kind of caught up who aren't. Yeah, it's not great. So that's where I go to. And honestly, I've only recently learned about this kind of thing because, there wasn't a slide in here that I should mention. I forgot to put it in because I just made it a couple weeks ago. We never really talked about undocumented immigrants before because it wasn't really what we did, and we had no way to help. But we feel like it's important to let you know that the 3.3% of the United States population is undocumented. Undocumented workers make up about 5% of the workforce, so 1 in 20. Now, obviously, that's low in some states and super high in others. Even though you're undocumented, you still have a lot of civil rights, and unless you commit a crime, until very recently, it was considered just a civil situation to be undocumented, not a criminal thing. That has since changed since there's been an order for you to sign up. Not every judge is going with that order. Just learned about that just today, actually. So they still have a right to an education. They have a right to legal representation. Having your feet in the United States gives you some rights. It doesn't matter where you're from. And so that's just, and I'll get into a little bit of the next part about how much they contribute to our society. And like I said, it's not something I'm used to speaking to, but I'm happy to now because there's so much information on it. Okay. I'm going to go through just some. Can you do me? No, I think we're okay. I think I did it. I've got a real, I wanted to make sure I shortened this part. If you're here in Central Ohio, you know that immigrants and refugees help with our growth, right? That's why we're a growing city. If you get a chance, see Michael Wilco speak from the United Way. He's got the numbers and he can basically prove everyone in Ohio is losing people, Columbus is gaining people, our economy is growing, almost all attributable to the workforce of immigrants. So making it available, people of all kinds are coming into Columbus. We know from an older study that refugees and specifically really help us a lot. Next slide. We believe these stats to still be true, although we're trying to get some new research. Do you know that refugees in Columbus attend college at the same rate as the general population of Franklin County? They're twice as likely to own a business than the average bear here in town. And they have a higher workforce participation rate. So when people say they just come here and take money, doesn't happen. Come here and bring their family, can't do it. Illegal, can't do it. Just come here and work off the system. It just, of course, there's some refugees who come who are bad. All people have some bad people, but it doesn't mean they shouldn't have the same rights as any other refugee. The vast majority are working, sending their kids to college, trying to get a home, becoming members. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Next slide. This is just from a Health and Human Services report that came out a year ago. I've kind of distilled it down. It's mostly about refugees, but refugees are just a little bit better than all of these as other immigrants. As you look at, they tend to do the best, and it's probably because of what they've gone through and how they get a leg up on the start. Next. Their taxpayers, $581 billion were paid by refugees over that 14-year period, but in 1 year alone, undocumented immigrants paid $96.7 billion to a tax system, some of which they use, roads and libraries, and others of which they don't, Medicaid and public service. So they're paying into our system. How do they do that? You call the government, you ask for a tax ID, and you pay your tax. Okay, that's how you do it. Next slide. We get a social security number, yeah. Consumers, refugees are consumers. That's just showing how many people in 1 year. That's just refugees. If you look at immigrants and added asylum seekers, it'll probably double. Next slide. Refugees are, again, hit it one more time. That's a broken one. Business owners, I like to say refugees and immigrants are job creators because we have a lot of negativity when we say refugees or immigrants. And I try to point that back with they're job creators. They're not just hiring their friends and family, they're hiring our kids at their businesses that they're starting. And we're lucky enough to live in a town full of refugee-owned small businesses. My husband chose someone to be a fiduciary or something, help you with your money. And it was a Cambodian refugee from years ago, like 30 years ago. I was like, pick the right guy. Next slide. Workers, obviously. Refugees add to the labor supply and increase productivity and reduce labor costs. They create more jobs for Americans in other areas of the economy. Did you notice how some things changed a little bit when the Somalis came here? We had a lot more car places and a lot more, like that's what they were good at. So that's what they did. With the unions came a lot more truckers here and a lot more big trucking companies. I mean, it changes an economy. And I want to speak to not just refugees, but all immigrants. Every study out there shows that the benefit greatly outweighs the negatives when it comes to refugees and immigrants working. They tend to do things, create more jobs. They tend to take jobs that we don't take. They do. There is some evidence, especially in the southern states, that they may lower what people are making in the trades. And you can see that, like drywall trades, like things like that. But all in all, the net positive is so positive on their help for economy. And also, they're not here taking from the system or to crime, right? They stay at home to crime. That's what people believe.
And they're
One of our fine
and they're not eating cats.
congressional representatives from this state has introduced a bill to mandate truck drivers be efficient in
saw that.
English.
Yeah, I think if you go to, I was speaking to you with money from a 5013B federal fund, so I cannot speak to any specific bill, but I can tell you, please check out Indivisible. That's the organization right now that's really, Mia Lewis is in charge of the Columbus. It's a nationwide organization. You might not agree with everything they do politically, but they are the most current. I feel like, other than that rooster guy, they're the most current on some of this legislation and how to fight against it. But yeah, and I remember my Afghan friends were like, they loved being truck drivers here in the United States. They're like, I never have to stop and show my papers. Because they were truck drivers in Afghanistan. Every time you went to another region, you'd have to stop and show your papers. They're like, it's great. I don't have to show my papers, and we don't want to go back to that. But yeah, that'll give you information on that bill. Indivisible keeps a running tab on that, who's voting how. Refugees learn English better than any other immigrant. I don't know why. They just do it a little bit better. Next slide. Yes.
The National Spelling Bee the other night.
Yeah.
8 of the last 9 people in the spelling bee were from South Asia.
Right.
And the guy who won, English is his second language, or maybe third. I don't know, but yeah, crazy.
I love this document. This is real current research. Almost 60% of refugee families own their own home. It's just 5% less than the rest of us. They want to buy a house. Fastest I saw was 1.5 years. An Afghan family was able to buy a little house out in Galloway. I'm like, you're not buying a house, and he's like, oh yeah, I am. So they buy houses, and you probably have seen that out in this is Berwick. What's the other one that starts with a B?
Berwyn.
Excellent.
Oh,
There's no, maybe I'm wrong. What's it like Hannah and
Blackfoot?
Blacklick? Yeah,
Yeah.
the Nepalese community, just are building out there, and that's just very successful community. They haven't been here that long. Next slide. And they vote. This will kill you.
Wow.
wow.
And let me tell you, they might not be voting on who you want them to be, right? It's pretty 50-50. If you know what I mean. They know what they're doing when they have opinions. So it really helps our country, right? It helps our country to have voting citizens. Next slide.
Oops, was that too fast?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Why do people come to Columbus? In the refugee world, it was direct resettlement. Maybe they had family here, and so the UN would say this is a good place to go. Or maybe we had organizations like Jewish Family Services and CRIS and us together that could do capacity is a lot. And so they might call us or say, hey, will you take this kind of refugee, maybe a Rohingya? This happened. And we were like, no, we can't take a refugee like that. They won't thrive here. They won't be successful here. There's not a community here. And we make those decisions, and we say Dallas is where the Rohingya are. But so this whole program tries to get people to where they'll be successful. Columbus has been a successful place for Congolese, Eritreans, Ethiopians, Cambodians originally, but that's how we became a refugee city. Sudanese, and of course, can't even get the Somali folks to do a table at our conference because they're like, we're Columbus people. Why are we? They're like, I can't simply do it. They're like, you want us to make tea? Sorry. There's also what happens in every city that has refugee immigrants is there's secondary migrations. Refugees and immigrants are allowed to live in any state. And just like you or I, if the jobs dried up here and the housing got too high, we'd be, moving to North Carolina, right? We'd be looking around to do it. Refugees do the same thing. And so if immigrants and even folks like the Haitians, so if someone says, hey, there's 20 jobs opening at Worthington Industries and you just got laid off in California, come stay with us for a while, we'll find you a place. That's how people come here. And other groups just kind of leave. It's like they come and maybe they go off to Texas or California where there's more people, but people tend to locate where there's jobs and friends and community. And so Columbus has been a great community for many refugee folks. Next slide. And they obviously make us a better city. They're high English learners, and those are just the slides that I showed you before. But proud to be a part of the program in Columbus. I think we're about done. I think that's it. I don't think there's another slide on this.
That is it.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's good.
How far does Central Ohio go? How many counties are involved in
At
What?
CRIS,
what?
at CRIS, we can go 50 miles. So what most of our clients are in Central Ohio because that's where their communities are, but we have clients in every county around us as well, if it touches Columbus. So we've got clients in Granville, we've got clients in Delaware, we've got clients out, whatever's past Plain City. What county is that?
Fairfield,
Fairfield, maybe. So we have,
Hocking.
I have never met a refugee that moved to Hocking County.
We're in Columbus and members in hockey.
Get a great place like way, maybe it's talking about like way outside of Canal Winchester, like on a farm. And this was this little Guatemalan family. And they're like, we're like, there's nobody here. They're like, that's okay, we got cars. They, they moved out there. They rented a big home with me.
So Chinese and Indians have been at the state house testifying, I know you can't talk about it, but testifying against legislation. And I have to say, I don't know quite what the legislation does, but prohibits them from purchasing land. They're raising specters of having their land taken.
I know, I do not know that, but I those Chinese and
Indians.
Indian immigrants like that have come through work visas or student visas or
I mean, are elected legislators.
Huh?
and but those are, I just don't know that stuff because it's kind of outside of what I do. Bet Indivisible does though, yes?
Back to something you said a while ago about leaving the country if you don't have a green card. So if I heard you right, does that mean if you're here with any kind of a visa for work or for a student or whatever, if you leave the country without a green card, then it's more likely you could be screened than when you're trying to come back and held up?
That's
While you're here, you're not as likely to be.
well, there's a real no man's land at that airport before you step foot
Yeah.
to the US, and the laws are slightly different. So our lawyers are just saying if you've got a green card, you should be able to get back in without problem. If you do not, I would not travel. So that
what kind of a
H-1B, we
Yeah,
would say
yeah.
don't travel. So student visa. Now, several of my friends have student visas, like one of my colleagues' boyfriend's Irish, and he hasn't seen his family in 2 years, and they decided to go. They're also asking them. There's a lot of recommendations, especially with your phone and not taking your phone, your personal phone.
Yeah.
Why?
Because they can legally check it.
Right.
So if you were to attend a protest that somebody didn't like, I mean, there's just, you know what I mean? You just, they'll do that. So we're just saying, a lot of our clients' green card is in process, and even though they have a valid travel document, it's just not safe. It's probably nothing will happen, but it's just not safe to do that.
Is the reason for this a shift in the politics in Washington, or what, is there some legal decision?
A shift in the politics in
I mean,
Washington.
it's just, they want to press harder on this, and so put a little more pressure.
They are doing things that have never been done.
Yeah, okay.
Are they legal?
Glad to understand.
There are so many pending lawsuits, but they're pending. There's so many, can't keep up with them. I showed you the legal guy slide. It's just pages and pages. 626, yes.
When someone is granted temporary protected status, what are they told? How long are they told it will be good?
It's a 1 year or 18 months, and there's always a date on it. So it'll be like I think Venezuelans were March 26, 2026.
Are they told that we can wipe it away?
I don't know, but that's a pretty those are pretty strong cases in the courts, but it was just overruled. So by the Supreme Court,
Right.
so I don't.
So can we? These
But, I think my lawyers
or whatever
right.
it is.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. I can't. It's hard to tell. It's hard to express how upset we are about this, and my life's fine. No, I'm fine, but we are. But there's some wiggle room in some of those rulings. There's other rulings to come along, and people are fighting it. But they're in almost a worse situation than someone that snuck in.
That's true.
You know what I mean? If you think about it, but hopefully they've applied for other statuses. Yes,
I am interested, I don't think you got in what, how an ICE arrest. What happens in that?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't. I only know, I just don't.
No news about it. There's nothing. Well, and everything I've seen on
There's those
news,
reports.
it's like they're not following
Right.
normal procedure.
I-
That people are masked.
I follow some organizations and I kind of quit reading it because I can't read everything, but I follow some organizations that are watchdogs for detention through their Substacks. So there is ways to get good information. I just found kind of that TikTok-y video information. I wasn't sure if it was real or not. There was a pretty bad incident yesterday with somebody who went to court because it was their asylum claim. The judge dismissed their case, which they're just doing now. And so that instantly made her undocumented. Right. And so they took her and her daughter away in handcuffs. So left the husband he is a citizen, probably a citizen. Like, so that is happening. Whether or not it's happening in the mass numbers that people would like us to think it is, that's where there's some real question, but we might see some highlighted cases. Detention numbers were Austin Coker gives those stats. And I can't, I haven't read his newsletter this week.
So Austin Coker's on Substack
He's on Substack.
and this indivisible organization.
Indivisible, you should be able to reach Indivisible is national, the Columbus chapter.
Okay.
And they're the ones protesting. They're very vocal, but they're just so good at sending out updates on legislation. And Church World Service State of Play. And we tell everybody because we can't tell you about these things or about people who to elect or whatever, and it's fine. We're following the rules. But Church World Service is a different kind of thing. So they have an advocacy page as well. And I'm sure Lutheran Social Services is better than that one. They're usually on the ball. So check out those big, Global Refuge, International Rescue Committee, Church World Service, Episcopalian Migration Ministries. Those are the big ones that are going to have action.
ELCA advocacy will send things out.
Right.
Often on those. And you kind of indicate your interest.
Yeah, we can't really speak to those so much. All right, I gotta.
Well,
I
Teresa,
gotta-
you have the next thing to move on to, I know,
I
so thank you.
do. I get to introduce church group to a Haitian family this morning and kind of training them how to be friends. Since we don't have new refugees coming in, we've started to just training some groups to help some of these people. So that's my first one. And so we're going to see how that looks. And maybe it's a pilot. I'm looking forward to that today and kind of training them a little bit. We have a big party that we are having called World Refugee Day Block Party on the other side of town, and we don't charge anything for it. We have our clients make food for it, so you get to try ethnic food. They have tables set up. I wasn't allowed to get a bouncy castle, so I bought 2,200 water balloons. Okay. So might get a water balloon.
Day.
So hot last year. That's why I got more balloons this year, but it's fine. We've got some Nepalese
When is
dancers,
that?
some Venezuelans. It's the 21st of June. I'll give you a card and you're more than welcome to come if you're interested in making a little donation for it. We make sure this is free for all of our clients, and it's not a big. CRIS needs your help. Keep an eye on that space. We have fundraisers. We are going to make it, but this is just a little bit. It's a little party that we throw every year. It's really client centered. Charging for it or anything. All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So-
You guys are great. It's nice. I could tell you. After Sunday morning, having your lunch up. I had time to slip out and get a Starbucks sandwich. Oh, here it is. You want to pass that down? You can stick it on the board. Once our block party.
So the wife